right, team, well then we'll get this meeting started, so this is the Lewiston Planning and Zoning regular meeting for January 22nd, 2025. So we'll call the meeting to order. Item number one. Item number two is citizens' comments. I don't see anybody in the audience for us. Joel, did we have anything called in, emailed in? No? All right, well, burning through number one and two. So number three on the active agenda, approval of meeting minutes from the January 8th meeting. Dawn, I know you emailed those out last week. They looked good to me. Did anybody have any comments, questions, concerns?
Yeah, so on the agenda item, approval of the December 11th meeting minutes, there is a typo within the small paragraph saying December 11th, 2023, it should be 2024.
Good catch.
Oh, man,
Oh,
Dawn.
yes, yeah.
Ms. Dawn. So I would make the motion with that correction if there are none.
And I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No? All right, well, motion carries. Item number B then on our active agenda is City of Lewiston Envision 2044 comprehensive plan or implementation of the work plan for 2024-2025. So Joel, I'll let you take it away and then Maureen and I can probably fill in any gaps for the commission members as well.
Sure, so this is something that the new comprehensive plan calls for in its implementation chapter. The comprehensive plan has an implementation chapter. A lot of what's in this document in front of you tonight is right out of that implementation chapter. It gives guidance on how to create an implementation work plan, which is what this is. It's intended to implement goals and objectives and actions of the comprehensive plan. So the work plan recognizes those considerations that are in the comprehensive plan. And it also includes the items that comprehensive plan says is supposed to be contained in the work plan. There was a committee, an ad hoc committee that's authorized in city code for city council to create. City council authorized that committee. It consists of the mayor, 2 council members, 3 planning and zoning commission members, and then supporting staff. And that committee's been meeting for 6 months now, maybe. Probably about 6 months. And we've not been through this process before. Our last comprehensive plan didn't have an implementation work plan, so we're kind of playing it by ear. And there were a lot of things discussed, a lot of ideas, a lot of issues, but it kind of got off track a little bit, and the committee started recommending doing things before we actually had a structured work plan in place. So the things you see in here, a lot of them are almost done, actually. Because we've been going gangbusters, as you guys know, because you're holding the public hearings and the public meetings on these things. So the meat and potatoes of it is contained in the Excel spreadsheet, which is the colored sheets. And what those colors are, they represent goals, objectives, and actions that come out of the comprehensive plan from the various chapters. So they're color coordinated. For instance, green is Parks and Recreation chapter goals, blue is economic development chapter goals, and so on down the line. So this contains initiatives in the first column. Those are the initiatives that the work plan committee recommends. And then after that, you'll see the related actions, objectives, and goals that are related to that from the comprehensive plan. And then it lists the responsible party, whether or not there are any funding or additional resources needed or available, timeline for completion, and the status of the particular initiative. So the very first initiative is the zoning code amendments to require an outdoor recreation area. in multifamily residential development and add flexibility to the R4 zone, decrease the maximum allowed building height in R4, and add multifamily residential as a conditional use in C6 zone. That's almost done. It's going for second and third readings and adoption by the city council, January 27th, this upcoming Monday. However, they removed the requirement for the outdoor recreation area for multifamily residential. The other initiatives, rezoning along 21st Street and Thane Road corridors, as well as north of the Sunset neighborhood. That's an up zone to increase allowable density and bring those lots into former or better conformance with the lot size requirements. It's very early. It's gonna take a long time. It's gonna be a very big effort. So we've identified the properties associated with that, but we've not started that notification process to the property owner. So that'll be coming down the line. The next one was zoning code amendments for small lot development standards. You're familiar with that. You've been having a lot of meetings about that. That's going to city council very soon again too. Evaluate and amend the landscape code. I've got a meeting on that next Tuesday with the committee, as well as with some local landscape contractors to advise us and someone from the city's Urban Forestry Commission. The off-street parking code amendments to reduce required off-street parking requirements. That's all already well in process. That's actually also going to city council next week. And then the last one is complete rewrite or update of the parks and parks open space master plan. And Shannon's kind of in charge of that as the acting parks director right now. And I'm not sure exactly what the status of that is. That's not updated yet, but those are the initiatives that are recommended by the committee to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And your ask tonight is to consider this implementation work plan proposed by the committee and decide if you want to recommend it for approval by city council, or if you want to remand it back to the committee for additional work or amendments, or if you want to make amendments to it your own. And that's what we're here for tonight.
Maureen and I kind
We
of have.
kind of carted before the horse on a few of them already, but you
Yes.
know, where we were in pretty good agreement, like with the parking lot stuff and things like that.
Yeah.
You know, those are pretty easy peasy ones. And so we felt as work plan committee, the sooner we got those pushed out, and obviously this body has pushed those out to get to city council for implementation to hopefully, you know, I know personally of several people who are looking at possibly opening new businesses. And I'll tell you straight up, the parking code change is going to make some of the locations they're eyeballing possibilities for what they're planning to do. So we're gonna be able to hopefully see immediate results from that, buildings that have been vacant for a while or for sale for a while.
Not only on the commercial side, but the residential side too. We had a meeting with a developer this morning who wants to do a 48-unit apartment project up between east of Thane, between Brighton and Airway. And he's very much looking forward to the reduction in the amount of required parking. If it's passed, which it probably will, he will still put in a little bit more than what's required, but it'll leave more room for open space on the property. And guess what? Even though the outdoor recreation area requirement got taken out of the zoning code amendment by the city council, he's putting it in anyway.
Good. Well, and that's the kind of housing that's going to be attractive
Yeah.
to people.
He's doing a bona fide playground.
So I'm, glancing through here, and in almost everything we touch, we're talking about green space and places for people to go out and enjoy in their small neighborhoods, because larger communities do that. They have small neighborhoods. And to take it out really kind of hit me kind of wrong, because again, why are we wanting green space and then not requiring something of it?
Yeah.
In new constructions. I think that's what makes our community so charming. and desirable as the city of trees, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever it is that we talk about. So I appreciate that a builder is willing
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
move forward with a little.
Well,
bit.
and I think too, I mean, from a, I don't know, I look at it from a logistics standpoint of, you know, what's going to set my property aside from a lot of the others that other people are going to do. Well, that's gonna be more appealing. If there's some place for my kids to, instead of them having to go to the closest school, playground, et cetera, if there's something on site where my kids can be on site and I can watch them on site, that I'm gonna be willing to pay more in rent there than someplace that doesn't have that availability.
Well,
So,
the discussion of green space, I mean, we've touched on this in prior meetings, but was the balance between community, family coming together and also not substantially increasing costs or adding a regulatory burden. And so that 5% not being contiguous, I think was as good as you can get in terms of trying to minimize the regulatory footprint
Yeah.
on something.
And, you know, I understand that. But what I think we as a community do want is a visual appeal, an actual draw. I mean, Alcatraz doesn't have a lot of green space
True.
and it's not a big seller, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah.
So,
Well, that was kind of that was also one of the ideas with the parking regulation change was you don't, does the community want us to have nothing but
Parking
vacant
lots.
Shopko parking lots?
yeah,
A giant asphalt desert? I
Mhm.
mean, I don't realistically think anybody would want that, so. But, you know, if you don't put any requirement or give any guidance on not wanting that, then that we've seen that that's what we get
my
when,
favorite is the Burger
business
King
leaves.
parking lot. That thing is massive.
well, I mean, we have multiple giant parking lots on 21st.
Yeah.
and nobody takes care of, by the
Right,
way.
yeah. it's where the farmer's market sometimes, or at least popped up this summer or last summer. So I mean, there's that, but you know, 95% of the time it's vacant and it's just,
Yeah.
it's there, but,
Mhm. And those are very valid examples. Yeah.
and I agree with you, Cindy. I don't think it's what our community wants. And I think striking the balance between walkability, community, family. I think developers are gonna do it naturally on their own anyway, cause well, okay, fingers crossed. I think developers that really want to create apartments, homes that cater to families and will continue to have appeal, will do it on their own regardless. I think there will be some developers that don't. But that's just my
At the
opinion
end of
on
the
it.
day,
That's why I
mean,
think we
it's,
put it in
it's,
there.
it's our job to provide recommendations, you know,
No,
that's
I
all we can do.
appreciate the hard work
Yeah.
y'all did.
But, you know, part of what we have left to do, you know, that we're talking about are kind of along those same lines. So the landscaping stuff, that we're getting ready to meet on and move forward. And then, of course, the outdoor parks and rec type stuff. And I think that, you know, part of what we were trying to look at as a work plan committee, was finding that balance between like the Parks and Rec, that's gonna be a lot more of an in-depth process.
Mhm.
As well as things like the parking lot, you know, changes and things like that, that can be done quickly, because there's nothing, at least in my mind, there's nothing worse than knowing, well, you've got a committee and well, what are they doing? Well, what are they doing? What are they actually getting done? And so for us to be able to come out and be like, oh, here you go, here's 4 or 5 of them.
And they
That
don't,
cost next to nothing.
they don't have a huge upfront cost.
Yeah.
I mean, staff time is a cost, but they
Yeah.
don't have a huge upfront cost in terms of like dollars going out that wouldn't otherwise go out, so.
Well, and I think, you know, especially with the ones that we're looking at with the expansion on Thane, the R4 zones and then the Sunset area and, you know, changing the zoning on those direct effect, you know, changes in those neighborhoods that are gonna open up business opportunities,
Yeah.
subdividing property opportunities, things like that. You know, those are going to be ones that are gonna be very touchable by the average person. You know, a parking lot change. The average citizen isn't gonna notice that, see that, but you know, somebody, you know, looking for coming in, seeing, you know, especially if you've got a young couple and you've got an older couple who lives in the Sunset area and they're able to divide out, and now all of a sudden you've got, you know, a nice neighborhood, an established neighborhood, instead of it having to be all the way out on the East Orchards.
I
You know.
mean, it was, I mean, to me, it was a response to, I think most of the generic complaints that we see around about Lewiston's not easy to do business with, you know, regulatory hurdles that you have to deal with. So this was kind of the low hanging fruit in terms of upfront cost and also the biggest impact regulatory reform wise.
Yeah.
I mean, changing zoning codes, it's not easy. It does take staff time, but you know, to the average citizen, dollars are not going out like you're paying a contractor to pave a road. And then the road's still pumping and
Yeah.
people still complain about it. So that's largely why I thought that these are good faith efforts in that they're trying to confront in a low cost manner and a minimal impact manner, addressing the big issues that the community feels about community development, housing, the economy, jobs, affordability. This kind of touches all of those, at least tangentially in some way.
There are two pieces to this work plan that were directly responsible for this guy we met with this morning wanting to do the development here. One was the reduced off-street parking requirement. The other one was part of the first initiative in here, which is to reduce the minimum lot area required for multifamily residential in the R3. So the property he's looking at is R3. He wanted to do more units than what the current R3 zone allows, which would have been 30. Once this change is adopted, which should be very, very soon, he can do 48 instead of 30. And those two things really sucked him in.
And look at what that's going to provide.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 48, you know, units that families can look at.
Yeah. And it attracted him,
And
so.
what a great neighborhood area. Considering, you know, because, yeah, that's right in where you'd want it to be.
Yep.
Because that's walking distance to schools.
Yeah, it's right next to a school pretty much.
Yeah. But we'd love feedback.
Yes, we would appreciate feedback.
If there's anything in there that you see that you're like, what we have to move forward with.
There was one other thing too, and this was touched on more at the last work committee meeting versus prior meetings that we had. Particular with the Parks and Recs master plan, which was giving Parks and Rec or other committees some sort of guidance in terms of what they should do. Now that's not the purview of us or the work committee, and planning and zoning is a little bit unique in that we have certain jurisdiction over things, and that kind of literally guides in terms of what we see, can do. Other committees don't necessarily have that. So whether it's in this work plan or future work plans, this can sort of guide what those committees do, what they need to finish. And from my understanding with Shannon, the master plan is almost sort of done, but the commission hasn't, the Parks and Rec has not really, they haven't finalized it.
Right.
And I'm not on that committee, so I don't know how long it's been since they've touched it. But like that would give that committee some sort of guidance or at least a nudge to, hey, you might want to look at this again, or you might want to approve it.
Did the community hire a new Parks and Rec director?
No.
No. Are they gonna?
They have a temporary right now, right? And when I say temporary, I mean.
Shannon is the acting director, and then they brought back the older Parks and Rec director prior to Tim Barker
Oh, okay.
as a part-time consultant
Oh,
kind of
okay.
thing. Yeah,
Okay.
and this work plan will change over time. obviously, because we're already through, some of these almost done already, so, it'll constantly be revisited, updated. And like Gabe was talking about at our last meeting, we talked about how a lot of things that are in the comprehensive plan are not directly related to planning and zoning commission.
Of course.
So the committee membership will change over time too, to reflect that, because we'll bring in a member or two of the the Public Works Advisory Committee to help committee develop an amended work plan at some point to start implementing public services, facilities, and utilities initiatives.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, with a work plan too, I mean, with this, we've kind of settled on a 1 to 2-ish years. And this may not even be 2 years. I don't
It's
know,
2 years.
100%, 2 years. Okay. So like a work plan can go out further. It can be less than 2 years. I mean, I think the committee felt like that 2 years was a good start for the first work plan that we're doing. And the other thing that has to be kept in mind is, we elect a mayor every 4 years. We have at least 3 council members turn over every 2 years. So you also have that natural, I'll use the word instability, but I don't necessarily mean it negatively. You'll have a little bit of instability in the process in terms of new faces being involved in the process. And then as Joel said, newer committee members coming and going, the focus of the work plan changing after those first couple of years, and so on and so forth.
I appreciate flexibility. I don't appreciate U-turns.
Well,
I work at a university. There's every leadership administrative change is a pendulum back and forth. And one of the things that I was concerned about when this entire comprehensive plan process began was, what do they call it when you do a survey or you put money into something and you want to see a return, you want to be able to measure your success.
Return on investment.
There you go. So that's one of the things that, because I was not involved in the 1999, obviously, I wanted to see what's our recap, what we accomplished, what we do well. And I think in the 2-year view, we can, I mean, it's the same thing. I talked with Shannon about code enforcement, right? Where's the numbers? And they're like, well, we don't have any numbers because it used to be the police. But without numbers, you don't, you don't have a proof that you're doing it well or you're doing it poorly. And I for one, like factual numbers. I like to be able to measure successes so that we don't keep throwing money or energies at something that's non-productive.
Well, and I think, I mean, the thing is with a comprehensive plan, which goes out 20 years, or even a work plan that goes out 2 years, I don't want to say that there will be a U-turn, but you're gonna have different people come in and they're gonna have different thoughts and ideas and opinions. But that can sometimes be a good thing, or it can also be you throw money down the drain because the people who come in are like, this is not what we want, and now we're completely.
I always come back with Boise Place, U of I Boise Place. So I do understand it can steer other directions, but you often hear about, oh, somebody's behavior once they've gotten drunk is, I never expected that out of them, right? It's the same thing with the community, in my opinion. I think that the base presence of the community and what we normal humans see as the values of the community should not change no matter the leadership. And I think that the base foundation of what Lewiston represents should look reasonably familiar as we move forward. You tweaking it here and there, but not in about face.
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, I don't have the data right in front of me and I can't recall 100%, but I think the community made clear in the survey that they were concerned about housing, jobs, economic security, affordability. I don't want to downplay other things about natural space, but.
No, natural space, but also neighborhoods, preservation of history. You don't want uncontrolled growth, you wanna,
Right,
you know,
right.
because then you'd have the no parking on the side streets of all of, you know, the orchards.
My example is always, we don't want to be Bend.
Um,
When Bend, Oregon exploded, it was not planned in advance and it shows now dramatically.
I think you see that. I think you see that in a lot of the sprawl in the Treasure Valley with Caldwell, Nampa, Boise, Meridian, Eagle, because they were on the forefront of it, have done a better job of infill and being able to handle some of their earlier mistakes, but
But it's the same thing I said to city council a while back. And that is, when you have pre-planning, when you have the foresight to plan for expansion and growth, things that maybe LC didn't, things that maybe the old high school didn't, you know. Don't penalize it when somebody actually has the foresight to plan, how big's this gonna get and what are we gonna need? Because I don't wanna see historic neighborhoods cannibalized for parking lots or dorms or, you know. And we can't change the location of St. Joe, we can't change the location of LC, but, you know, the new high school certainly gives room for expansion as the community grows, whereas the old space didn't,
Yeah.
right?
The only
So-
thing I've kind of pushed for and I'd like to see more of is more quote unquote commercial corridors headed out to, as we expand further and further east into the orchards, where there are opportunities for little things like little community markets. and
Yeah,
things
the A and Bs, and yeah, no,
Yeah.
I get that, I just don't think that,
I mean, I
and
don't
think
wanna see a
commercial-
mall out there necessarily.
No, but you, a
kinda-
nice little gas station, et cetera, no, so the commercial corridors, I think is a primary concern, and again, I know I speak kind of, you know, on my own little island on this, but I think it's very easy for commercial to begin to, it's like a flesh-eating bacteria if it's allowed
Yeah.
to continue to encroach in existing neighborhoods.
Well, and that's part of the whole, you know, having this R4 neighborhood commercial designation available for us to have things that are small, not necessarily, you know, a McDonald's popping up, but
a
you
low
know,
impact.
a low
Small.
impact, something where you've got, you know, like you said, a little A and B grocer.
The little bait
something-
shop, something
Yeah.
along the, yeah, so
a little
that's my thing.
eatery, A little,
Because when commercial expands to the point where it's starting to knock out neighborhoods, you're also then undermining affordable housing.
yeah.
Well, I think we've seen the trade-off with business. And again, it's a certain type of business, and I know I've used this example before. I keep going back to it. Kmart. It's, I mean, it was great when it was there, and now nothing can be done with the property. You have a giant parking lot and you have a giant vacant building.
And it's an eyesore.
Yep, and I understand that that is a commercial corridor, but that's the trade-off you make with that type of business and the impact it has when that business leaves. And businesses have no obligation to stay.
No,
No. But, you
So-
know, and, you know, further up the hill, you've got the old Safeway building that's vacant. You've got, you
Yeah.
know.
well,
and-
we're gonna have what, Big Lots next, but
Yeah.
whoever locked in the Planet Fitness and is working towards trying to,
Hobby Lobby.
resurrect the mall. Cause I think malls have a place in the world
Yeah.
I do.
to a degree.
And I think it's important for us to try and get those more big box type, you know, those larger businesses to try and backfill those spaces rather than necessarily opening another opportunity for somebody to put in another giant parking lot somewhere with a
Yeah.
big business.
Yeah,
So, yeah, development towards Nez Perce, I think isn't that the quarter going east past the theater?
As per script.
We already commercialized that, if I remember
Yeah.
right, and the south end may have some of the mixed use.
Yeah.
Didn't we do that? Yeah,
Mhm.
so, I think clearly identifying the expansion corridors for sure. And
Like I said, the only thing I'm looking at is, you know, whether it's like, I don't know, Powers or Growl or one of those that expands out. I think we need to start looking at and identifying a section out there somewhere.
Well, that'll, I'm sure, in the near future, come up as a consideration to add to the work plan.
like
Okay,
like a
yeah.
little R4 area out there. I don't want to see a C1 or C5 or, but I think it'd be nice to add an R4 type something.
For business.
Well, sounds like you guys got a good start.
We're trying to maintain balance.
I'd like balance.
So. I make a motion.
Absolutely.
You can, absolutely.
All right, so I move that we approve the implementation work plan proposed by the Comprehensive Plan Work Development Committee and forward to the city council for consideration.
I would second.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No? All right, well, the motion carries. All right, well, that takes us out of our active agenda. Thank you for the discussion, everybody. I know Mo and I a little bit more in depth than you all, because we sit on the committee, obviously, but
No, it's
But
nice to
we-
hear
we
it's-
do
you.
appreciate your
We
input
want
and
the feedback of
Yes.
kind of what we're looking at and where our minds are headed and, I don't know if you guys have had an opportunity or took the time to go through the entire document, the big work plan, the comprehensive plan, and see, the responses and things like that that came out of that. But, it is what, 22 pages, 23 pages?
Oh, gosh. Well, I mean,
And we went through and immediately tried to highlight the things that, especially with staff, and staff has been, the word phenomenal, I
Yeah.
don't think covers it. They have done such an outstanding job of being able to not only hear kind of what we were hoping to get
Yeah.
off the plate right away, but
Mhm.
making it happen.
Yep.
Like it is blown my mind how fast they've been able to dial in and get some of these things, like Joel said tonight. A lot of these we've already done. We've already ticked them off.
Yeah.
And I think that that's part of, when we jumped into this, at least with Emily and Gabe and I jumped into this, we really wanted the public to be able to see that we're making progress. We're doing something with it. It wasn't just a survey and, oh, well, we found out a bunch of information, didn't do anything with it.
And that was one of the considerations of developing this first work plan too, is the committee wanted to create one that was gonna be successful and not pick things that were too huge and risky, because they felt like it was important to show success early.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
We'll get the low hanging fruit first and then tackle bigger as we go. But I think too, a lot of this low hanging fruit that we've tackled helps make some of the bigger things easier because it opens up
Yeah.
those additional
well, I mean,
opportunities.
I think if you can have, I mean, even though these are low hanging fruit, there's already success stories with the developer coming in with the zoning
Yeah.
change and being able to build 48 units and him saying that's the reason why. I
Yeah.
mean, that's an immediate impact that there was no cost to the community upfront, minus some staff time and the council and us discussing it. And the benefit is going to be the money flowing into the community, the people who are gonna be able to afford those homes, so.
Well, and hopefully that also, somebody else looks at that project and goes, oh.
Yep.
And I really sincerely appreciate that this developer wants to put in recreational space. Because to me, that automatically, somebody else looking at putting in a similar development
Well,
is gonna kind of
wanna do
need
what
to
they
match
did.
that a little
Yeah,
bit.
Set the
yeah.
bar.
exactly. And
Yes,
so
yeah.
I think that's that huge success.
And it's a step in the right direction that I mean, I hate to keep harping on it, but it's a step in the right direction that the developer did it irregardless of whether the code required it or not.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't done anything yet. It was just an initial meeting, but
Well, it's
The
positive
48
either way.
units, they still have to sell them, right?
No,
Yeah,
it's
48 units,
apartments.
yeah.
Is it apartments?
Yeah, no sales involved.
Build it, they will come.
Yes.
Yeah.
heard a motion and a
Yep.
second.
Yep, and we've been voting.
So we did approve it, so we're
Yeah.
kind of still doing discussion.
Now we're just at staff communication.
Now we're on staff
Okay.
communication.
It was unanimous.
Okay, sorry about that.
So sorry, we are on number 4 now, staff commission communications. So is everybody gonna be here for the February 12th meeting? I know
February.
Kathy
As of
won't
now.
be. Okay,
We double check.
I believe
but think
Emily
so.
I believe Emily said she would be for that.
Yes.
I don't think she mentioned, she just mentioned she wouldn't be able to.
Okay.
Yep. So
I should
think
be
I'm
able
good.
to.
One meeting at a time.
So that'll be a public hearing that night on allowing shipping containers as accessory buildings.
Oh, goodness.
Is it 1 or 2
That'll be a
public
fun one.
hearings? Just one?
One in front of you guys and then another one in front of city council.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So for clarification, city council removed the green space thing after we,
Yes.
okay.
After we argued that one over and over and around and around and
Yeah.
around and around.
Yeah.
And percentages and math and.
So
It was a close vote, to be fair. It was 4-2, but
But we didn't take it out of the work plan because that was
that was part of.
a product of what the committee recommended.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
it's gonna go to them that way with that in there. And technically, they can take it out of the work plan too, but we're not gonna take it out in advance of them doing
No,
that.
no, no, no.
Yeah,
Because it's,
Stare it down one more time.
yeah. I will say, I mean, we do now have 2 counselors on the work plan, Counselor Klein and then Counselor Schroeder. So, and Counselor Klein did join after that part of the work plan we'd had prior meetings on it, discussed it. So there also is the hope with more counselors being on the work plan that there will be a little bit more involvement on their end and just more dialogue and feedback so that things don't get bogged down or things don't have to get changed that much. That's a hope. I'm not criticizing the council's decision. That's their prerogative, but having more council feedback, just like having more commissioners' feedback is welcome because it gets everybody on the same page. And these arguments or discussions can be hashed out before so that
So that we
say,
don't
so
get
say
shot
the
out of
comments
water.
that so say the comments that we had and all the discussions we had don't get rehashed in another committee's jurisdiction or completely get thrown out with the
End of the
bathwater,
day,
so.
I still feel good about what we did.
Oh, yes, absolutely, so,
Stand by the decision.
yeah, so. That's an aside, but, so it sounds like
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we adjourn.
I will happily second that, Counselor, or Commissioner, excuse me. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, well, I'm not even calling for a nay on that one.
Nope.
Thank you, folks.
Done it, done.
Thank you, Joel.
Yeah, thank you for your work, Joel.
Show me again how to get out of this.
Thank you.
Take your name away. No, not yet.
Sorry. Are you gonna yell at somebody you wanted off the record?
no, not